This is my response video to John the Other's response video, link in the description and all that good stuff. If you haven't seen it, I suggest you check it out. Oh, and if you are wondering why I am on an angle, it's because Subman USN is back. Check out his newest video, link in the description. So you're not French? I'm sorry, I thought most Canadians were descendants of the French, and you were looking as French as a fry. Plus I have to harass Canadians from time to time or I get my US citizenship revoked. And as Americans, if we give any credit to Canada for anything it has to be Rush. Credit Canada for anything else and they deport us to fucking Ontario. And then we have to live with you fuckers and hear you talking about the weather. So the ass-kissing of Molyneux was actually a jab at Paul Elam disapproving your original criticism. Well then, clever. So the registerher.com is all you're doing, not Paul's. Sure do love doxing people, don't ya, John? I understand displaying a list of female criminals, pedophiles, rapists, murderers, etc. I understand the purpose and value of that. It's when college protesters, and YouTube pose, and attention seekers with their satire, or wonky histrionics, are now doxed and shared on a list of genuine criminals, with their crime being, you didn't like their words. That's when I think the claim loses legitimacy. As far as calling for mass murder, John, don't you know you do this every day? When it comes to intergender murder, more women are killed by men than the reverse. Feminism claims to fight against this femicide. You, John, fight against feminism, therefore you are by proxy supporting femicide, systemic murder of women. Now sure, it's a hell of a leap to go from I fight feminism to I endorse the continued murder of women. That is, I endorse murdering women. I mean, that's a hell of a leap, but there are people this fucking goofy. I mean, there are people who call Earl Silverman's suicide a murder. The point I am trying to make here is this: feminists, and hell the whole cultural Marxist crowd of social justice warriors for that matter, will perceive threats where there are none. They will insist that criticism is bullying and harassing. They take the words "I hope you get raped" and say this is a threat that I will be raped. They take any opposition of them and insist that it is bullying, harassing, threatening, attacking, and an effort to have them harmed. Or objecting to feminism all by itself is endorsing mass murder by proxy of insert convoluted bullshit. I brought up you referring to Earl Silverman's suicide as murder, to remind you that you yourself have committed this act, and the reason I bring this up is to point out the danger of a slippery slope. It begins with I am cataloguing dangerous female criminals and will dox people who advocate murder. This is your reason, and your moral basis for doxing and cataloguing. But what is to stop you from just doxing everyone who irks you under the silliest pretense to the original reason you started Register Her? In fact, you've already done this. You've already gone down the slippery slope. You started out cataloguing female criminals whose arrest were a matter of public record. Then you started adding college feminists who committed misdemeanors at a protest. Then some celebrity woman that did comedy, referring to castration, as advertisement for something. And then move on to doxing small-time histrionic nuts on the internet, femitheist. And last I heard it was you who doxed Academy. If this is true, then aside from him being an obnoxious fucknugget, whose ass I boned until it bled, what crime did he commit? Did he actually advocate murder? Is it only a rumor that you were the one that doxed him? Seems to me you've already gone down the slippery slope. What concerns me is that the social justice warriors, feminists and the One People's Project, dox and threaten to dox politically incorrect people, as a method of intimidation, bullying them into silence. This is censorship. So my point was not you're being as bad as a feminist. I was trying to make the point that our enemies use this sort of rationale to censor us. If we can see the evil in doxing when it happens to us, can we not see that it remains an evil when we do it to them? But beyond this evil is a concern that if we resort to any form of censorship to our enemy, then we have opened Pandora's box. We will begin flagging and reporting the blogs and channels of tradcans, and they will in turn do that to us, and we will flag and dox our fellow MRA and our fellow MGTO over every insult and disagreement because we will have opened Pandora's box of censorship. We have normalized it within our ranks. This will increase the overall censorship everyone in our movement faces, slowing our progress down that much more. Oh, and at about 12 minutes and 10 seconds into your video, you claim that if a man made a serious threat on the internet of killing women, he'd be in jail in less than 24 hours. Actually, Elliot Rodger did just that, and wasn't the big deal that he did not go to jail, and it was a year later he carried out that threat. I get your point that when women attack or threaten to attack it's treated with "oh, isn't she cute?" When men do it there are actual consequences. I get the point you were trying to make, but men do make death threats online all the time. Racial supremacist groups like Razor openly call for the ethnic cleansing of all races. They have publicly, and on internet websites, made a declaration that their first order of business was to rid California of every black person. Since 1995 they have succeeded in killing, chasing away, and displacing them by 50%, and they continue to make public speeches and declarations of racial genocide, and multiple California street gangs are constantly targeting blacks and carrying out the declaration of La Raza. They only get arrested after they've been caught pulling the trigger. Of course, the flip side is some kid trolls in a game of League of Legends and gets 2 years in prison for his joking. It is practically random as to which individual or group gets away with declaring murder and genocide, but I get your point. Oh, and about that woman with the commercial about neutering, Katherine Heigl, that you put on that register her. I don't have a problem with you putting her on registerher.com, because Katherine Heigl is high profile and makes no effort to be anonymous and is for the most part oblivious to you and your website to begin with, thus this cannot be considered a censorship effort. Also, if women are expected to take a rape joke, we should probably take castration jokes. The whole idea that joking about violence against men, such as castration, leads to actual violence against men, is the exact argument feminists use to protest rape jokes, claiming that it creates a culture where rape is joked about and normalized. There is truth to both claims. Castration jokes in commercials, Sharon Osbourne laughing at a man's castration, it feels like a culture of violence and castration is being normalized. The feminists feel the exact same way when a rape joke is told. We tell them joking about rape does not cause rape. Well, joking about castration does not lead to castration, and if it does, then joking about rape leads to rape. If joking about rape does not lead to a cultural acceptance of rape, then neither does joking about castration or violence against men. We must learn to drop the double standard and choose one. Either joking about it leads to cultural acceptance of it, or it doesn't. This must be applied equally to castration and rape. We have been told that we are mirroring the feminists, and this is true, and this is a good thing. It helps us to recognize what they have actually been struggling against, rather than just dismissing them. This helps us, after all, men's liberation, equality for men, or whatever name we're giving our movement, is more than just dismissing feminists and putting them back in the kitchen. It is awakening to a deep understanding of the man and woman dynamic, and our place within it. But enough of that argument. I will expand upon all of this at a later time. You ask, what is the difference to doxing Elizabeth she/he versus doxing Femitheist Divine? The first and obvious difference is she/he makes zero effort to be anonymous. Thus bitching about her and putting her name on a website cannot be seen as a censorship effort since her name is public and high profile. You're not using doxing as a threat to silence her. That would be the major difference. As for Academy, if you did dox him, you shouldn't have. And did the guy advocate mass murder? You know, the criteria by which to morally justify your doxing. Were you even the guy that doxed him? Or are you such a chronic doxaholic that any time someone gets doxed it's assumed to be the work of John the Doxahembling? You claim you don't remember Krista harassing you on Twitter etc. Well, okay, I guess you were oblivious to it. Well, actually a week or two before you doxed her, I had been getting fed up with seeing her tweets in my feed, regarding stupid shit she would say about MRAs, AVFM, Paul Elam, and yourself. Particularly there was a string of tweets targeting you, that I believed was false and defamatory, and I told her she either needed to stop lying or ease back on the hyperbole/satire/sarcasm because she's just talking dumb shit. This ended up being the beginning of the domino effect that would have us at each other's throat, starting with me telling her that her attacks on you were not called for because they were not legit, accurate criticisms. Some way somehow, this got her to say she cared about men. This pissed me off because it was a lie. She continued to insist she cared about men. Keep in mind here, when I first made friends with her, I was about 80% convinced she was just a po. It was right around this time, after the three-way mindfuck between me, her and Snake Plisskenist ended, that I was only about 10 to 20% convinced this was an act she wasn't dropping. What pissed me off was if she isn't going to come clean about this femitheism crap being satire, she needs to stay in character and stick to the men make war. Men are evil, castrate them nonsense. Trying to play it both ways while attacking legitimate MRA concerns and telling me I don't hate men was becoming forever a slap in my face the longer we argued about it. Then you doxed her, and I laughed my ass off and immediately wrote my support of it in the AVFM comments. Then retracted not the comment, but my endorsement of doxing Krista, and only on the grounds that the doxing shit itself, regardless of target, was fucking stupid. As far as the offer to retract the article, if she retracts her position, I think I may be mistaking that for an offer/suggestion to do so, advised by me and or Stone, and then she wrote a redaction of femitheism, which I believe was decided by you, to be not good enough/no deal. Again, I'm hearing most of this shit through third parties because me and her weren't really on speaking terms, my memory of it all being a bit fuzzy. But I'll take your word for it that there was not an ultimatum given, thus this was not an effort of censorship, and the censorship aspect being the only part of any of this I give a shit about. You want to dox and catalog people who in some way shape or form advocate mass murder, or support TGI Friday only being open on Fridays. I could care less. Wait, is it I could care less, or I couldn't care less? And if you want to put some feminist's name on a website to harass them, then fine, whatever. As far as I am concerned, every time a feminist cries an angel gets its wings. I'm just concerned about any type of censorship entering into our movement and getting normalized. Thus far we are able to spit in each other's face, and have our opponent spit back, and we mix it up and let the fur fly. This is good within our movement. I think it creates a healthy atmosphere. Better to be foul-mouthed and aggressive than stifled and constricted by the threat of censorship. The doxing shit, whatever, I don't care. Moving forward, I need all the soldiers I can get right now. We are facing a massive upsurge in tradcons. We are seeing AVFM take a direction I believe is antithetical to MGTOW. I fear the label MRM will be so tradcon hijacked as to become just feminist bellyaching from conservatives and libertarians who want to liberate women from big government. Socialism ruined their innocent little brains and made them into feminists. It is vital we hold our ground that MGTOW is not going to become a part of their female pedestalizing culture. To quote Diana's new video intro, we don't want to go back to a traditional world. As I've said before, it's not even the division of labor that is the upsetting or disturbing part of traditionalism, it is the underlying philosophy behind why it is good and proper. The philosophy itself is one of gynocentrism, male disposability, and to some extent misandry. It also contains a view of women that is not only glorifying them as above men, but also sees them as so helpless as to require male sacrifice for their preservation. It is a philosophy that holds only men accountable, and places all obligation onto the backs of men, while giving women the pussy pass. This keeps men as the disposable servant of woman, and places him in a position of being a second-class citizen. And what's even more disheartening is, it was that exact attitude that served as the foundation for feminism to be so powerful and successful. Women, feminists, claim going to TAM is dangerous because of all the males and their sexual harassment. They don't feel safe. Not that this has ever stopped the Rebecca Watsons and healthy addicts in the feminist movement from actually going, it just makes them feel afraid. If men were to say something stupid like that, they would be bullied, mocked and harassed for being such cowards. But when women do it, we got a white knight, and that shit comes from the traditional view of the genders, and we call it sexual dimorphism. So if you don't agree with this sacrifice the men to protect the women attitude, you're a social justice warrior denying nature. This is a gross misuse of the concept of sexual dimorphism. But whatever, the point is, the tradcons and their philosophy is toxic to men. If we allow traditionalism to replace actual men's rights, if we allow our progress in the MGTOW movement to be set back due to accusations of us being social justice warriors and radicals on the fringe, then our progress will be lost, no lesson will have been learned, and it's a shame that we as a society, as men, have gone through so much hell at the hands of the feminists for generations, to simply have it all temporarily undone, and to go back to the traditional world temporarily, allowing feminism to rear its ugly head all over again. To allow this, is to mean that we men have suffered for generations and have learned nothing from it. I have made mistakes, we have all made mistakes, that's a part of being human. It is also human to learn from those mistakes. Again, if we learn nothing, then we as a society fucked up, suffered for it, and are content with repeating it. I need all the allies and soldiers I can get in this battle, so any superficial differences I have with you over doxing, will take a backseat until the war is won. Also, as Barbarossa pointed out, you're gone from the politically correct shackles of AVFM. Fuck the editorial board, you're a free man, and look at the spirit and vigor we see from you. You seem to be more alive with passion and bite, and I like it. I still think you are an insufferable prick, which is why I like you, John. Oh, and the last few seconds of your video, let me just put that on loop, grab the Vaseline, and thank you, John, I owe you one. Oh, and one more thing, John. If you want to know how to trash a hotel room proper, here, let Ace Frehley show you how it's done.
So how do celebrities trash hotel rooms? Hang on, let me get the door.
Rock and roll room services here.
Ace Frehley knows how and why.
Let's do it.
Sometimes I would make my own wine racks.
I'd pick up a bottle. Beautiful.
Furniture.
Hey, this is the way it's done. 1, 2, 3. Hey!
Now all we need is a chainsaw.
Chainsaw. Well, I just happen to have.
Thank God today I can say I think I'm a pretty good role model.
And then follow this up by dressing as a Nazi, swear it's because you're trying out for a movie part, then shooting yourself with an Uzi, cackling with a maniacal laugh and telling the nearest Jewish guy, if you Hebes knew how to build a decent weapon, rock and roll baby, rock and roll.